And welcome back to the VolReport YouTube channel. I'm Ryan Sylvia, joined by Dale Dowden. We're with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network. Last week we did a solo trivia video with Noah. This week we're going to do one with Dale. We're going to see if Dale can beat Noah's score. It's going to be similar topics, not the same exact questions, but it's the Family Feud version of trivia. So there's going to be 5 answers on the board. You're going to have 3 strikes to name as many as you can. If you get the number 1 answer, you get 5 points. Number 2 answer, 4 points. Number 3 answer, 3, so on and so forth. Everything's going to be on the 2023 Tennessee football season, and I'll give you a stat, and you'll give me a player that is top 5 in that stat. Last week, Noah totaled 35 points in 3 rounds. So, Dale, that's the number you're going to look to beat. We're going to get things going with average yards per catch for Tennessee receivers, tight ends, running backs, whoever caught the pass, doesn't matter. But average yards per catch on the season, I'll open it up.
All right, Squirrel White.
Squirrel White's actually not going to be on there. So that is your first strike. Just because of his high load of catches, it makes so sometimes you catch that screen, you only get 2 yards. Well, now that 40-yard catch, that average comes down. He was just off the list, though, but he isn't going to be in that top 5. So that is going to be strike number 1.
Jacob Warren.
Jacob Warren is going to be strike number 2. He also is just shy of making the list. So 5 other guys right now that are still on the board.
Ramel Keaton.
Ramel Keaton's the number 1 answer. He sat at 18.3 yards per catch. So you got the number 1 guy. Let me keep track of your points. That's 5 points now. And I will say Noah got all 5 on his first one and all 5 on his third one. But the middle one, he just got 1 correct answer, and it was the number 1 guy. So you're still on pace, even if you don't get the next guy to tie. But you have 1 strike left to see if you can knock any more off the board.
I'm going to go with Brew McCoy.
Brew McCoy comes in at number 5, so you get 1 point for that one. He had 12.76 yards per catch. So that's going to be a 1-pointer. You're up to 6 points now with 3 guys left on the board.
Dante Thornton.
Dante Thornton's the number 2 answer, 17.23 yards per catch. A guy that didn't have a big bulk of catches, but when he caught them, they were for a good chunk of yardage. You're up to 10 points now. Number 3, number 4 are left. You still have 1 strike to play with.
Jalen Wright.
Jalen Wright is going to be your final strike. You get 10 points, though, so a nice round. The 2 guys you were missing, this one surprised me because I think he might have only caught like 3 passes. But Ethan Davis averaged 16.5 yards per catch, so he was in 3rd place. And then the other tight end, McCollum Castles, was in 4th place with 12.86. So you missed a pair of tight ends. You guessed Jacob Warren. You just got the wrong guy out of the 3 that they typically
wrong tight end. Yeah.
But 10 points is not shabby at all. We're going to switch things up to the defensive side of the ball now. So 2 different defensive questions. That's what I did with Noah, too, is he got 2 defensive, 1 offensive questions. So tried to keep it somewhat similar. Okay. This one is leaders in tackles who did not record a sack. So if you recorded even half a sack, you're off the list. This is the top 5 guys in tackles that had 0.0 sacks on the season. Kind of a funky one, but I thought it would be a little bit interesting. There's 5 guys on the board.
I'm going to go with Herring, the one that just transferred. I get them mixed up still to this day.
Elijah Herring is who you're looking for, the linebacker, Caleb Herring, the edge rusher. That is going to be a strike. He had half a sack. So that half a sack is the difference between getting 5 points because he leads the team in tackles and 0 points. So it's going to be strike 1. 5 guys still on the board, 2 strikes to play with.
Kamal Haddon. About Jalen McCullough.
So what we're going to do, I made an error when I forgot or I missed the top guy when I was looking through it. So Jalen McCullough for Dale is going to be the number 1 answer. That's 5 points, but that does bump Kamal Haddon down 1 slot. So Kamal Haddon is now in the number 4 slot, and Jalen McCullough is now in the number 1 slot. So that is going to be a total of 8 points this round. And so you had 5, 4, you had 10, and then now you have, sorry, you had 7. So 17 is going to be your score after all of the mixing around and getting the right answer. So to recap, number 1, Jalen McCullough, number 4, Kamal Haddon. You have 1 strike, 3 guys remaining, and we're all set to go now.
Jeremiah Thielander.
Jeremiah Thielander is the number 2 guy. Jeremiah Thielander, he had 35 tackles, never got in on a sack, though, which is a little bit surprising. Not crazy surprising, but a little bit.
Especially at the linebacker position.
Exactly. So 17 plus 4 is going to get you up to 21 points as you continue to chase the 35 mark set by Noah. You got yourself in a nice position. 2 guys left here, number 3 and number 5.
The guys I keep thinking, I feel like they have at least 1 sack. So I'm trying to think of – that's a hard stat to try to think around.
It is. Because even like 1 corner blitz and you're off the list.
Yes. That's why I was almost hesitant to guess Tank for a second because of that. What about Gabe Judy Lawley?
Gabe Judy Lawley is not going to be on the list. Gabe Judy Lawley, he had, let's see how many sacks he had.
Probably 3
He
years
had
ago.
1 sack in there. So that 1 sack keeps him off the list. That's strike number 2. 2 guys remain, though. And I will say the number 5 guy, there's 2 guys tied for the amount of tackles without a sack. So if you give me either one, I'll give you number 5. But there is a guy alone in 3rd place.
We'll go with another young. What about Ricky Gibson?
Ricky Gibson is not going to be on the list. So you're going to finish with 21 through 2 rounds. Caleb Perry was the number 3 answer, a guy that just changed his number. That's going to take me a little bit to get used to, from 40 to, I think, 8. But he was number 3 on the list. Caleb Perry had another guy. Surprised he didn't even have a tackle for loss. So he didn't even bring down a ball carrier in the backfield, which is just shocking to me because he played a decent amount. He had 21 tackles on the season without a TFL or a sack. The number 5, two answers that I'll allow just because they tied at, I think it was 18 tackles. 18 tackles. Will Brooks and Jordan Thomas were the number 5 guys, 2 defensive backs. So you're at 21 through 2 rounds. We have 1 round remaining. This one is going to be pass breakups. Who led the team in pass breakups? The tiebreaker for these, if they both had the same amount of tie breakups, will be who had more interceptions, because it was the number 2 and number 3 guy both had 5 pass breakups. So whoever of the 2 had more interceptions is who I gave the number 2 spot, and the other guy's the number 3 spot. So I'll make that kind of clear right now, but let's see what you got on this last round.
I'm going to go back with Kamal Haddon on this one.
Yeah, Kamal Haddon's the number 1 answer. Doesn't even finish the season. Doesn't matter. 8 pass breakups, easily the most on the team. That's 5 points. You're up to 26 now as you get the top answer off the board.
Gabe Judy.
Gabe Judy Lawley was the number 3 guy, so he was tied for second, but I put him in the number 3 spot because he just had that 1 interception against Texas A&M. That is going to give you 3 more points, so you're up to 29.
What about Tank?
Tank is number 2, so he was tied with Gabe Judy Lawley, but he had 3 interceptions, so he's at the number 2 spot, and that's going to give you 33. And if I think you are at 33 points, Noah had 35. So if you get the number 2 answer, the number 4 answer, then you tie. If you get the number 4 and the number 5 answer, you'll beat them by 1 point, and you got 3 strikes left.
I think I might go back with Ricky Gibson on this one.
It's not going to be Ricky Gibson. Ricky Gibson had 1, so he's going to miss the list. The last guy on the list had 3 pass breakups, so
Okay.
just a couple short. So it can be tough to record that pass breakup stat because it's got to be a very specific one. If you're a good enough defender, then they're not throwing it there in the first place. But 2, if it's an incomplete pass, you got to get your paw on the ball. So it can be a tricky one to really get put down the stat sheet. But there's a guy with 4 and a guy with 3 that are going to make up the rest of this list.
Is Caleb Perry back on this one?
Caleb Perry's not going to be on this one. Caleb Perry didn't record a pass breakup last season, so that's going to be strike number 2 as you're down to the last 2 guys. A nail biter here between Dale and Noah from last week to this week.
About Jordan Matthews.
Jordan Matthews is going to be your final strike as you fall just short. Find Jordan Matthews on this list. It looks like he also had 0 pass breakups. So the last 2 guys, one guy that when I was putting this list together, I was like, I completely forgot that he was on the team last year. The star, Tamari McDonald, the star position.
Okay. That definitely, It
makes sense once it's like, that makes sense. But he completely slipped my mind when I was trying to think of defensive backs from last year. And then in number 5, it's a linebacker, Aaron Beasley, dropping into coverage. He got his hand on a couple balls. So you're going to fall just short of Noah. The categories he had were tackles on the team, and he cleared the board with 5. Sacks, which he only got James Pierce Jr. and then missed out on the other 4, which were Tyler Barron, Omar Norman-Lott, Aaron Beasley, and Josh Joseph. So he was kicking himself for that one. And then average yards per catch was yours. He had longest reception, and he ended up getting all 5 of those. It was Squirrel, Keaton, McCoy, Dante, and Castle. So, I think some people might say that you had the harder one, but we'll let the people in the comments decide. And if you played along, let us know how you did. Did you beat both Noah and Dale, split the series 1-1, or how did you guys do? I'm curious to know because this one is kind of a fun one to play along with, I think. But 33 points is going to be Dale's final. We'll be back next week with another trivia video. SEC Media Days, by the time you're watching this, it will be probably Thursday is when this video is going to come out. So they'll be on the last round of it. But Tennessee's already spoken on Tuesday, so we have all the coverage you need from SEC Media Days there. Travis Smith Jr., the latest addition to Tennessee's football 2025 recruiting class. So that's coming up, or that class is shaping up really nicely. And we got kind of every weekend from here on out, there's another guy that's looking to come off the board, whether it's Tennessee or not. It's kind of the biggest part of the recruiting season. You got to nail those guys down and kind of close the deal. So Tennessee's going to look to do that with some big names as we get into August. And then when August comes around, Faison Brandon, maybe the best quarterback in the 26 class, and then David Sanders Jr., the number 2 overall player in the 2025 class. They're both Tennessee targets. I think there's, depending on who you talk to, people might say both are going to be Vols by the time they come off the board. And I will say, I was looking at it yesterday, if David Sanders Jr. picks Tennessee, the Vols have the number 1 and number 2 offensive tackles in the class headed to Knoxville. That's a massive deal. So in recap, if you want to be up to date, involved, everything there is Tennessee football, whether it's team-wise, whether it's recruiting, basketball, men's and women's, baseball, everything there is Tennessee athletics. You got to be over at VolReport.com. Links to everything you need is in the description. Thank you for watching.